Do you know your body? That sounded crazy. All right, let me try it this way. It's not just enough for you to know your size. That sounds crazy too. All right, pause. Relax. What I'm really trying to say is as we begin to step out in style, I really want you to understand that you are making a statement. And this comes from my mentor when I first was getting started. He used to tell me that dress was the outward expression of a man's state of mind, and it is his attire that tells the world what he thinks of himself. And for a lot of guys, there is these negative self-doubting statements that they are utilizing when they step out. And they don't realize that the more that they tell themselves that, the more it is reinforced in how they show up. Well, what if you could start stepping out this year, today, with a new state of mind, but also a different statement that is attached to each step that you're making? What if you could be the best version of yourself without saying a word? Well, today I'm going to give you 6 concepts that are as easy as following a script to help you show up and show out in style. Let's step into a dressing room. Now, I believe that every man has a story, and that story soon becomes history or his story if he is courageous enough to author it. And I've realized in working with hundreds of different clients that these 6 concepts kind of keep them from telling their own story. And so they allow somebody else to author it through their influence or through the blogs or any of those different types of things instead of taking the time to see what really appeals to them and what they should be subscribing to. At the end of this, you'll know what to do, right? So when we start thinking about your personal style, part of sticking to your script is this first concept that has stumped hundreds of men when I'm working with them. And it's actually what I asked you in the beginning. Do you know your size and do you know your body? Outside of it being pause worthy, pause again, relax. It's important because most guys have never really taken a look at themselves in the mirror. If they are not really happy with their bodies, they're avoiding it. If they are working out heavy and seeing gains, they are overly observing it and not really paying attention to their body for the context of showing up as a better version of themselves in their clothing. So, studies show that men will either overestimate or underestimate their body when they are thinking about how it looks. But if you just took a moment to take a picture, take out your phone right now, take a picture in some short shorts or your boxers, you're not showing it to anybody, and take a frontal picture, full body, and then a profile picture, full body, and just take a moment to observe yourself. Pay attention to your shoulders. Pay attention to your chest. Pay attention to your stomach, your hips, and your seat. Pay attention to your thighs, your calves, right? How is your body shaped? Do you find that you stoop forward? Do you find that your shoulders stay very far back? Do you have a big chest? Do you have a big stomach? Do you have a bigger ass, right? If you're paying attention to all these elements, then having that self awareness puts you ahead of 99% of other fellas because they haven't taken the time to observe themselves. And just having that knowledge alone will help you make better choices in what looks good on you. Now, some of you may want to have something that's overly tight, but that doesn't really look good. It just makes you look like you don't know your size and you went and got your little brother's or son's suit and try to put it on. So having that awareness of self is the first and probably one of the most important parts of sticking to your script so that you build your best style. So now that you're better dressed than 99% of fellas out there, I just want you to commit to consistency when it comes to sticking to your script. Now, a client actually helped me have this realization when we were starting to work together. And it was because He told me he was having issues in these three areas. One, he wasn't committed to the amount that he was going to have to invest because he was just like, man, this just costs a lot of money. And we started to think about what he was committed to. Was he committed to himself, or was he committed to worrying about a price? And when we started to think about it, he was like, man, I've been being cheap. So I told him what I would advise you: don't buy cheap shit. It costs too much. And that is because even though you may have gotten four suits for $300 at that particular shop, you don't realize that that may be costing you your reputation, that may be costing you attraction, that may be costing you leverage in social spaces. And so once he started to realize that, he was like, yeah, man, I don't want to be cheapskate. I want to invest in quality items. Now, with that being said, just because something costs a lot of money doesn't mean that it isn't cheap. And just because something may be inexpensive doesn't mean that it isn't quality, right? So it's just about making sure that you're buying qualitative items. And for the guys who are going to hop in the comments and say,
that was easy for him, he had resources.
You got resources too. If you don't have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of financial resources, then you usually have a lot of time resources. If that's the case, commit to giving yourself the opportunity to show up as the best version of yourself. When I first was getting started, and still to this day, I would hop on eBay to find different items that I was looking for. And it may be an item that was expensive in the retail stores, but it wasn't on eBay, right? And so I was able to build a collection of clothing utilizing that method and several other methods to really build a dope wardrobe for a fraction of the cost. And I remember when people would ask me, I'll proudly tell them, yeah, man, I got this for $50 on eBay. They'd be like, yo, that's a Ralph Lauren Purple Label shirt, right? So even in that space, it doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money, but it may cost some time. It may cost some intention when you are getting your look together. And if you can do that, then all you have to do is be consistent in how you show up. That same client, he made this reference that I think is really beneficial to guys. He told me the more that I wear my clothing, right? Because we just created a capsule. He said, the more people are starting to take me seriously. And he happened to watch, I think, Batman. Uh, what's the Batman with Heath Ledger? What Batman is that? That's not Batman Begins. That's Batman. Look it up. The Dark Knight. Y'all already said it in the comments. Like, God, how do you not know The Dark Knight? Right? There was Heath Ledger's character when he was playing the Joker, and people said he was so committed that it became unsettling. He would walk around full makeup. He would talk like the Joker, move like the Joker, speak like the Joker, and he was committed to that role. And we forget that if every man has a story, that there's a role that you're playing in every person's life. And why wouldn't you want to be the hero? Why wouldn't you want to show up as that best version of yourself? And so when you make that commitment to yourself and that role of being the best, then you start to find yourself showing up like that. This is why you don't have to fake it till you make it. You can practice it till you become it because you are committed to your character, to the integrity of who you are, the roles that you have to play, and you're self aware on your characteristics of your body. So studies show that men between the ages of 30 and 50 spend $150 on average per month on casual activities. So I just want you to consider, if you put those things aside, you stop going out to the sports bar and decide to watch the game at home with some homies, you could have a dynamic wardrobe in less than a year just by being strategic with your resources. All right, I want you to try this on and see how it fits you. And leave me some comments in the comments if this makes sense to you. We haven't talked about you spending any money yet outside of just making sure that you're committed to consistently investing in yourself. And the benefit here is you don't have to change clothes. Not yet, anyway. All you have to do is change your mindset to be that much more stylish than most guys because you're self aware and you're committed. So after we do that, now we can start stepping into your closet. We can start talking about these other elements that you really want to refine. And that's actually the next element of sticking to your script. And that is refining your rotation. So we're going to do this in three simple ways. The first way is to think about what fits you, what fits your life, what fits your body, and what fits your commitment to that quality. But you have the opportunity to refine your rotation twice a year, and that's spring, summer, fall, winter. So when you are moving into the next season, it's a great time for you to evaluate what fits your life. There's so many guys who started out in an entry level job and they are now at a middle management or senior management level, but they've kept most of their same clothing since then. And if you still fit it, kudos to you. That's dope. But their lifestyle has changed. The places that they go, the people that they interact with, and the quality of interaction has elevated. And so it's time for you to elevate as well. But if you've been caught in being consistent with cheap stuff or stuff that is of lower quality than the spaces that you're in, now it's time for you to let it go. But don't just throw those things away. Think about passing them on to somebody else who would appreciate them. Now, most guys are in the same position that you were at one point. So if you have a son, you have a mentee, pass those things on to him. But make sure that he has a commitment to investing in himself. Make him spend a little bit of money on those items. You want to pass those things on that no longer fit your life. You also want to think about what actually fits you. Now, if you've invested in qualitative pieces, you're not just trying to throw those out. So if items are too small, right, then you want to take them to a quality tailor and then see if they can let out everything so that it fits you. Now, again, fellas, if it doesn't fit you in your shoulders, if it doesn't fit you in your chest and it's starting to bow, unfortunately, you may have to let that out or let that go as well because it can't be let out. But in that case, you'll start committing to being your best self and working out and making sure that those items fit. You know, you spend way too much money to just be letting those go arbitrarily, right? So that helps you as well, helps you stay committed. But if you are a person who has been saying, yo, I'm going to lose 15, 20 pounds, and you haven't made that move yet, take it to a tailor to have everything let out, or it's time to pass that on as well. Then you need to let go of all those other things that are not qualitative because they cost too much. We just talked about that. So think about refining your rotation in that space. Now, the last part is a bonus, and that is to refine your relationships with retail. A lot of guys think that they need to have all the latest, coolest designer brands when really they should start forming a relationship and understanding with a retail brand that they like if they're not going to go the custom route. So if you start to find these brands, and really you only need 3 to 5 brands, two in a soft tailor space, two in a casual space, and then one kind of outlier that's cool or unique that you are interested in, then now you start to utilize your relationship with the brand, not necessarily with a retail store, but with the brand to see how collections can work together in a very effortless and easy way. So now, if we still want to stick to our script, it's the easiest way for you to develop your style today. You have to just identify your intentions. And this happens for a lot of clients that I work with. They don't think about what they want to experience when they are stepping out. When I talk to most guys, and maybe this is you, they'll say, man, I just want to look good. And I'm like, okay, great. Look good for what? And they're like, man, I never think about that. Are you a person who is looking to attract a partner? You want to get better and more quality dates? Are you a person who is trying to get initiated into a social group, right? Or are you a guy who's trying to be noticed at work? If you're trying to do one of these three things, they can be different needs for how you're going to show up. Now, the dope thing is if you are being intentional and you also have a commitment to consistency in your character, these things can work together, but show up very differently in different situations. So, if you start thinking about how to be intentional when you want to date, well, the types of colors, the types of fabrics, and the types of looks that you're putting together are going to allow you to be more attractive. Once you understand what colors work best for you, what textures will elicit touch, what different types of looks you can leverage over and over again on first dates. All of these things start to create an intention that allows you to interact on a much more personal. So, research has shown that women rate men who are intentional and elevated with their presentation as more attractive than the guys who are overly casual with an undefined style. So if you're intentional about how you're showing up, you're going to attract a different quality of women, right? And so that will allow you to feel more confident. It becomes a reinforcement of sorts in how you show up. And don't make this overly complicated. I'm not telling you that you have to totally switch up who you are. That wouldn't be your character. I'm simply saying that you want to be intentional about what it is that you're wearing. I had a client and he started to had this concept at work called Fly Guy Fridays. He wasn't asking anybody else to do it. He just wanted to make sure that he was on point every time he stepped out on Fridays. Now, this also was beneficial because he would go out to happy hour when he did do Fly Guy Fridays, right? And so because of that, he started to see his coworkers, not to be outdone by him, start dressing up as well. Now, did he execute to the top greatest level? No. But him simply having that intention helped him show up as a better version of himself and therefore created a different dynamic around his workplace and made him more confident when he stepped out because he was already getting compliments at work. So something as simple as that intention can totally change your day and potentially even your life. You feeling stylish yet? Leave me some comments below. Let me know if you are. Now, here's something that I didn't really consider until I started recording the video. And that is when you create a script, nobody knows about the project except the other people who are involved. So don't worry so much about your self awareness or lack of self awareness in certain stages of your development. If you're a person who doesn't know what slope shoulders are, rock with me. We'll talk about that in some future videos. If you don't really understand how to create a consistent collection of clothing that works with you, rock with me. We're going to talk about that in a future video. If you're still trying to figure out how to rotate your collection, rotate the different pieces that you have in your closet, stick with me. We're going to talk about that, right? And if you want to have your intention there, nobody's going to know any of these developments. They're only going to see the featured presentation. And if you want to expedite that, you and I can work together one on one and really supercharge your style and yourself this year. So you have options, but nobody will know that you are editing, re-editing, and redefining your script. They'll just know that you're showing up as a better version of yourself than you ever have before. And another big part of that is going to be planning your presentation. So here's something interesting that I have started to become aware of over the last 2 decades of working with clients on their image. We love waiting till the last minute. And I don't know why. Leave me some comments below and let me know why you think we enjoy waiting till the last minute. But we do. Unfortunately, when you wait till the last minute to put a look together or to get your look together, you are always going to be stressed. And studies show that 60% of men who end up getting last minute pieces regret them anyway. And it's the old adage, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I want you to plan for your presentation. Now, a lot of guys don't think about how simple this really is. We're going to plan for three areas. We're going to plan for the calendar, we're going to plan for the season, and then we're going to plan for your day to day. Now, what I literally want you to do while we're talking is to pull out your calendar for the next quarter, the next 3 months, and I want you to look and check if you have any birthdays coming up, whether they're yours or somebody else's. Do you have any weddings coming up? Do you have any big business conferences or meetings that are going to be coming up? Do you have a big date, right? Anniversary or any other thing that you have to pay attention to. Mark that on your calendar and plan a presentation around it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be the day of, the week of, hopefully you're not the day of, or the week of, or 2 weeks out, and you're going to come in needing something, even though you may have a piece, you may need an alteration done, and it's not going to be available. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to work with somebody and they say, hey, I need this done in 3 days, and it can't be accommodated for. And now they're upset, they're stressed, they're angry at me, and there's been some times I've had to pull my clients to the side and say, hey, bro, you didn't plan for this. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? That's what we were told. So save yourself the stress, even though you may like it some weird way, and start planning for your calendar. And start to think about how you want to show up intentionally when you do. The next thing that you want to think about is planning for the season. Now, usually this planning is going to just be in what you need to purchase, right? So, and that may actually be the fourth little element that you want to think about. So the planning for your season is just going to be, do I need anything? I recently took a trip to a tropical climate and realized I didn't have a lot of stuff that I actually needed because I didn't really plan for that presentation. Now, luckily for me, we were just hanging out, kicking it. It really didn't require much, but it did make me start to think about resort wear. It did make me start to think about how I want to show up and what the intention will be when we are in those spaces, right? And how I can elevate that look for my benefit. So I had to suffer superficially in that space. So even when I don't plan for the season or I don't plan for my calendar, it costs me as well. So I'm not above this. So if you're in that space, then if you start planning for the season, you know that, hey, I may need a top coat because I'm traveling a lot in a colder climate this upcoming year. And that top coat is going to keep you warm and it will also convey competence when you are traveling and not in a bubble coat, right? That's not a good look. So if that's the case, then plan for the seasons as well. And then also think about just planning for your day to day. Are you in a casual work environment, but you're looking for a promotion? Well, then you want to plan to be slightly elevated every day when you step out. So if everybody else is wearing t-shirt and jeans, simply throwing on a polo or a button-down shirt and a great pair of chinos with your shirt tucked in is going to set you apart. It probably will be noticeable in the space of t-shirt and jeans or the golf polos and stretchy pants, right? But it will set your intention for the plan that you have for your ultimate presentation. And then also plan for your purchases. If you know that you've been saving your money, you have been refining your rotation of your wardrobe, and now it's time to start thinking about what it is that you want to get, you want to start acquiring. Be strategic about what you're planning to get. So when I'm talking to guys, if you looked at your calendar and you know that you have something 3 months away and you want to make sure that it's sitting in your closet, custom is probably not the right route to go. It may be just depending on their deliverables, but usually it's going to be more stress than it's worth. So it's time for you to look for something ready to wear. And you can check different retailers during that time to make sure that you're finding something that is going to be of benefit to you. So now you've planned for your presentation and you have stuff for your day to day, you have stuff for the season, and you have stuff for your upcoming calendar. This is one of the most difficult things for guys to do when I'm working with them. And that's simply trusting yourself. Now, I was working with a client recently and he was looking at all these different things that he could put together. And I started showing him how one jacket could be utilized for 4 to 5 different looks. And he was like, I would have never thought to put those together. And I'm inviting you to do the same thing that I invited him to do. And I was like, trust yourself enough to try on this just in your closet or just in your house. Don't show it to anybody. Don't put it on for anybody and see what you think about it. And if you love the look, step out in it. Trust yourself enough that it's going to look good. A lot of guys are hesitant to put on something that looks dope. And because they don't trust themselves, they actually diminish their look because they don't wear it or promote it proudly, right? They don't show that they made a dope choice. And if we're being honest, most of these folks out here don't know what the fuck they doing anyway. They are following somebody else who's trying to tell them this is what you should be wearing, this is who you should be, and this is what you should be doing. But if you've taken the time to become more self-aware, if you have started to be consistent in your commitments to finding the highest quality that you can and into utilizing those to create a rotational wardrobe, and then you're thinking about the intention and you've planned for it, you're already ahead of the game. Now all you have to do is trust your steps. Trust those steps, trust your script, and continue to refine it so that you can be the best version of yourself. And if you can see that, then you can be that. And that will automatically make you more stylish than most guys in that space simply by trusting that process, trusting yourself, and trusting the response that it's going to actually get, not only from the people around you, but from yourself. And trust yourself in that it takes time. It's going to take time to develop an awareness of self. It's going to take time to find consistency. It's going to take time to create a rotation of your wardrobe. It's going to take time to figure out the intent of your presentation. And over the courses of those spaces, trust that you're going to make mistakes. As we talk about how to continue to develop your look, you're going to win. And you're especially going to win if you avoid these 5 mistakes that even the most stylish guys make when it comes to developing their style.